What is up, everybody? Trip Morgan here, back for you with Panthers Source. We are streaming right here live on Facebook. You can also listen to this later on our podcast form. I've got links up there talking about that. We're on Google Play, soon to be on iTunes and some other platforms. Thank you for joining. We got a very special guest tonight. I'm excited to talk about the Panthers second-round pick, Donte Jackson. If you follow the stuff up here, you know I'm a big fan. I know a lot of Panther fans are really starting to like this guy and the swagger he's bringing to this defense and his speed as well. We're going to talk about that. But first, while you're watching this, go ahead and like and follow. Share this post. Let's get some more Panther fans in here so we can talk, get y'all talking about Donte Jackson and whatnot and other Panthers as we roll through this. It's that simple. And like I said, like and follow the page here. And also you can find us on Google Play, and we're going to be on other platforms, and I'll keep you posted on all of that. But right now I'm going to cue this intro, and then we're going to get rolling. So what's up, everybody? Trip Morgan here, Panthers Source. And like I said, I have a special guest tonight. We're going to be talking about Donte Jackson, Panthers second-round pick, cornerback out of LSU. And here to join me, I figured I'd go back to his college roots and bring in, you know, somebody who actually watched him throughout his career there and talk about him so we could get some full insight behind him. And on the phone, I have Sam Spiegelman from SEC Country. Sam, how you doing, buddy?
What's going on, Trip? How's it going?
It's going good, man. I'm excited to have this guy on our team, obviously. I was just telling you about this, but I'm excited to talk about him and hear some more inside information. I know, and I appreciate you, again, taking the time. Again, I know college football is starting to ramp up, just like NFL. This is a busy time for you on the recruiting trail, I know. So thank you again.
Yeah, anytime to talk about Donte.
Yeah, he's not hard to talk about. He won't shy away from it, will he?
No, that's not Donte's MO.
Right. So we'll get started right at the beginning and how he got into LSU. A five-star recruit. I know he didn't start off that way. You know, he's been talked about for a smaller frame guy and this and that. He's kind of always been held to that standard with that chip on his shoulder. But he doesn't play that way. He doesn't act that way. Tell us how he got to where he is today from what you know covering him.
Yeah, Donte was he was a high school superstar. He was kind of, the best player on his team on kind of a less talented team, or, there was, 2 or 3 Division I players at Riverdale. Obviously, Donte, as quick and athletic as he was forced to play quarterback for his team to give them any shot at winning games, when obviously he was not going to play quarterback at the next level. He was starting to get looks as an athlete on the 7-on-7 circuit. Obviously, offensively, you could see how he can make anyone miss in space. And then when you put him over on the defensive side of the ball, defensive back, a cornerback with 4.2 speed, that's when a lot of colleges started to notice him, when he got all the attention in 7-on-7. And quickly, Georgia, Mississippi State, LSU, everyone in the country began to take notice of Donte. He had his pick of the litter, and it came down to LSU and Georgia, but given his track speed, given, LSU defensive backs coach Corey Raymond, he became Corey Raymond's guy. He became one of the prototypes for the nickel position at LSU, which kind of Donte took into form, because having that elite speed set the tone for Donte's the next guy up, Kerry Vincent Jr., who'll be LSU's nickel this year. And his ability to speed, press men at the line of scrimmage, not shy away, kind of have that bravado, has kind of forged the nickel position at LSU. And it's just the way that LSU looked at a electrifying, prolific athlete with a lot of raw skills, and they thrust him into action as a true freshman, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I know. Let's see, 3 years total, 2015, 2016, 2017. And he played every game. Now it looks like he missed one game last year. Was that an injury thing, or Because that's one thing I wanted to hit on is, people talked about a smaller frame, but he was very durable and dependable throughout his whole college career.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even recall when Donte didn't play last year.
Maybe he just didn't start that one game or something.
The way Corey Raymond works in, Kevin Tolliver, who was, ended up signing with the Bears, could have started taking the first snap. But Donte has played the first 3 years of his LSU career from the time he was a true freshman. He saw action off the bench, and then quickly as a sophomore garnered a starting role, and as a junior, obviously, one of the top underclassmen in the country that everyone was paying attention to. But he spent time at the nickel, outside cornerback, a little safety at times. He's really played all over that secondary, giving Corey Raymond a jewel to kind of work his entire secondary around for 3 years at LSU.
Yeah, and it's saying something for him to come right in, his freshman year and really just kind of start picking up things and playing immediately, because LSU has been known lately for their defensive backs. I mean, it's really been no secret in some star players. I mean, that defense, that's one of the biggest hits for NFL in secondaries is some of those guys. When you're talking guys like Patrick Peterson, and I also saw where Jackson is the second fastest LSU player to ever run the 40 at the combine. Patrick Peterson ran a 4.31 and Jackson ran a 4.32.
Yeah, his speed speaks for itself. And just to give some context, when he arrived at LSU in the 2015 class, he came in with Kevin Tolliver, who was a 5-star guy, 6'2", 170-pound corner coming out of Jacksonville, Florida. Donte, wound up being a 5-star as well, but Kevin Tolliver was long touted as the #1 corner in the country at the time, and he came into a secondary where Tre'Davious White, who obviously was a first-round pick of the Buffalo Bills, was on the team. Jalen Mills was a starter in that secondary. Obviously, he was on the Super Bowl Eagles this past year. Jamal Adams was in that secondary. Ed Paris, who was another 5-star guy in the 2014 class. So he came in as kind of the most unheralded guy and wound up starting before most of the guys in his own class, and along with a really star-studded secondary, and he was a part of that group.
Yeah, and I mean that, like you said, it kind of speaks for itself. Now, 2017, he got second-team All-American honors. He finished. Let's see, what did he end up? 1 interception. I see he had 9 passes defense, his strongest of his 3-year career there, from what I'm seeing, and 29 solo tackles. For a guy his size, he doesn't shy away from physicality. I mean, it shows up all over the place on tape.
Yeah, he's a press man specialist. That's not to say he can't play in zone, but that's what Corey Raymond likes to do. He likes to, that LSU likes to bring pressure up front and leave their cornerbacks and safeties on an island. And Donte has thrived in that throughout his entire LSU career. He's, what he lacks in size, he makes up for it with toughness and tenacity. He's perfected the craft of jamming receivers at the point of attack, and you're going to be hard pressed to find a receiver that's faster than Donte is, and that's his entire game right there. And he's now a 2nd-round pick as a result of it. But there have been times in his career where he has been beat, but only the fastest receivers in the SEC have been able to do that. He will certainly find a couple more of them when he lines up against guys like Deshaun Jackson with the Bucks, and Michael Thomas with the Saints. But he's already one of the fastest men on the field every time he steps foot on the field. And with now NFL coaching, going from Corey Raymond, arguably the best defensive backs coach in the country in the college ranks, and getting coached by Ron Rivera and his defensive staff, he's going to learn some more technique to add to his game, and they're going to put him in position where he can take advantage of that speed and avoid getting beat downfield every now and then. But did not happen very often at LSU. There were every rare occasion every now and then. But it's hard. You show me a corner that's never been beat before, and
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their day. Everybody's going to have that time. They're going to get beat sometime. Even the greatest dude, Deion Sanders, everybody. It just happens.
Right.
And speaking of that, when he was going through the combine and he declared for the draft, where do you personally? I know that you're not an NFL coach, obviously, but you were around him and saw him all these years. Where do you see him kind of fitting in? Do you see him playing more of the nickel role for Carolina, or do you think he'll actually be able to compete with Ross Cockrell opposite James Bradbury for that cornerback 2 spot?
I think he's perfectly capable of playing on the outside, but I think in the NFL today, I think he's best suited to play the nickel. He doesn't have the greatest size, so he will be a liability going against some of the bigger receivers that he'll have to line up against. Obviously, the Panthers, you'll see this in practice.
Mm-hmm.
They got plenty of big receivers to throw at Donte, but if you move him against a guy like Torrey Smith, that's going to be a fun matchup to watch, speed on speed. Yep. I think in today's NFL, especially playing in the NFC South, the nickel is such an important position. There's so many small, shifty receivers that Donte is going to wipe away by pressing them at the line of scrimmage and axing out their quickness on short routes and trying to break defenders over the top. So to me, I mean, you can put him outside. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think he's a plus defender when he's put into that nickel position.
Yeah, and I think, speaking just on the NFC South alone, obviously he's not a guy that you want to lie. I mean, he won't tell you that you can't line him up against anybody, obviously, but he's not a guy you're going to go out there and send up against a Julio Jones or Mike Evans necessarily either. I mean, he'll give him his hardest fought battle, but that's just not something matchup-wise that you really want to see. But guys like former Panther Ted Ginn, speed guy, like another guy you mentioned, Deshaun Jackson, these are guys that Carolina really needed somebody to help with in these faster receivers in the division, and I think that's where he's going to fit in well. He's been getting a lot of comparisons to Josh Norman recently, and one thing Josh Norman did well was he was kind of able to bait quarterbacks and use his length and range because he was a lengthy guy, and he could go up and make the correction when he baited that quarterback. Donte Jackson seems to do a little bit of that, but he's got the speed, whereas he doesn't actually have the size. He has the speed to make that correction if he gets a step behind. And there was a couple times on film and throughout college you saw it. I mean, just like you said, everybody's going to get beat, but there was also times his speed showed up where he corrected that mistake and was able to catch up and get a pass defense or break the play up.
Yeah, certainly being thrust into the lineup as a freshman and seeing that early playing time, he was due to get beat every now and then. But like you said, you can see it on tape. He has makeup speed where he's that fast where he can get beat and he can still make up grounds on a receiver. And he's going to have to do that in the NFL. He's still kind of learning on the job. But like I said, coming out of high school, he was just an athlete. He got thrust as a quarterback and kind of had to learn on the job while playing significant minutes. And then, a 2-year starter at LSU. It's gonna continue as he continues to learn more about the game and continue to get more accustomed to the speed of the NFL game. I think that speed is always going to be something he's going to rely on. But I know that personally, between the way he goes about his business with a confident swagger, and also his eagerness to learn and continue to hone his crafts, he knows that he's the fastest man on the field a lot of the time. But Donte is a kid that, I shouldn't say he's a kid anymore. He's a man that he's always eager and willing to learn and admit that, it's still a process of honing your own craft. So that's a positive for Panthers fans to know that just because he's fast doesn't mean that he doesn't want to continue to learn technique and sharpen that aspect. And he's always going to rely on that press man ability. He's going to always jam receivers at the line of scrimmage. I don't care if it's Julio Jones or Ted Ginn Jr. or Michael Thomas. No matter the type of receiver, he's going to press them, whether he's or just shorter or the same height. And that's something you can always count on with Donte.
Yeah, and that's one thing, Panther fans, that's one of the reasons he's getting this Josh Norman comparison right now is because he's bringing that swagger back to a defense who, after lost Josh Norman, never really got it back. I mean, they just didn't have that, that extra swagger that we talked about. Now, that's a good transition because this is obviously one of the main parts we wanted to talk about here. Bill Voth recently, I believe it was Bill Voth with Panthers.com, recently asked asked Donte who he would compare himself to. And Donte mentioned Josh Norman, obviously, and then the Rams, Marcus Peters And even Jacksonville Jaguars, Jalen Ramsey, and he quoted himself, I'm quoting him now, guys who play with that fire and who talk about it, that's just something that I feel like every DB should have, that type of attitude. Some people call it cocky, some people call it arrogant. I just call it playing DB. And that sounds exactly like what Josh Norman brought to that Panthers defense in 2015. He brings that chip on his shoulder. He's going to line up, just like you said it. If he goes against the Julio Jones, he's going to talk to him like he's 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I mean, that's just him. And I love that. I mean, I do. But at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily fair when he hasn't even played his first year in the NFL to maybe put that kind of pressure, if you want to call it that. That's the best way I can put it, really, on a guy like that. And then if he doesn't go out and, have the best low percentage from a force a quarterback to best worst completion percentage, then people are going to be saying, oh, he was a bust and this and that, because I don't think that's necessarily fair either. Do you?
No, I mean, obviously rookies don't always make immediate impacts. I guess you'd like to say that a second-round pick is, it's a very high pick, and you'd like them to have that kind of impact. But in terms of the bravado aspect, that's something that's basically engraved into you at the LSU DB room. That's something that Corey Raymond instills, is that confidence. And like I mentioned before, the guys he played with in that LSU secondary, Tre'Davious White, Jalen Mills, Jamal Adams, those guys, the one thing they don't lack is confidence. And Donte certainly embodied that as well, or better than anyone else. And he's always felt that way. He's always felt that he's the best player in the field, because in high school and a lot of times in college, he was the best player on the field. And I think that's really important for a DB, because like we spoke about at length before, he's gonna be beat in his time. But the fact that he's confident and he can bounce back quickly, that's something that Panthers fans should be excited about. With Donte, you have to have a short memory as a DB, and confidence is going to come into play as he kind of learns on the job, whether he's outside a corner going against guys like Mohamed Sanu or now Calvin Ridley, who he had to play against in college. I think that these are things that he's going to have to learn against. Ted Ginn as a veteran. I'm sure he's got ways to get behind anyone in the NFL. He's done it for a decade. But Donte is not going to let one mishap change anything else about his game. He's going to rely on his confidence and his speed, and he's going to have that short memory to come back and just as strong and learn from it.
Yeah, I can't wait personally to see him at training camp padded up going against guys like DJ Moore. I mean, already at the rookie mini camp last weekend, a receiver was stepping up to him on the line, and Donte walked right up to him and he said, "Hey, receiver, come get this work." And I mean, it's hilarious. Bill Both is just like obsessed with Donte, because he's been waiting on that guy to bring that type of swagger to the media room and everything else. And Donte has definitely done that. He's out there quoting Cardi B and singing and having a good time. And it's also good because he's, it just shows that he's loose. He's out there, he's serious, but he's there to have a good time. He's going to do his job, and he's going to fight a hard fight every time he goes out there. And I'm just excited to see it. Like I said, right now he's my favorite draft pick just because of that. I can't wait to see what he brings to this defense, whether it's nickel roll or he competes with the outside. I mean, his size and speed, obviously the nickel spot, like you said, is such an important part of the NFL defense these days. I don't think it gets enough respect. Obviously, Carolina has a Captain Munnerlyn, who Donte can also learn stuff from as a veteran. And then we drafted Corn Elder last year, and he was injured. But more competition is just as good. Obviously, Donte with the second-round pick, I expect him to get plenty of reps going into this season.
Yeah, don't forget that Dante's from New Orleans, and they breed that confidence in New Orleans, and it's just something that you can expect from him, and he's going to listen to his elders, for lack of a better term, and I think you can expect him to make an immediate impact. Whether it's a starting or a nickel roll or reserve roll, or he's not afraid to play special teams. He can return kicks and punts. He's done that his entire career, at least in high school. He's electric with the ball in his hands. I think the Panthers got themselves a really great player that fits the NFC South really well. It fits the Panthers well, and it's going to bring a lot of character to that defense and try to help them make a leap this upcoming season.
Yeah, for sure. And I also wanted to ask: is there any one particular moment in Jackson's college career that stood out to you as far as funny or game-changing wise, or anything that you can recall?
I'll take you back to his senior year at Riverdale. He was going against a team that I think eventually made it pretty deep into the 4A state playoffs that year. They might have, I don't think they went to the Superdome, but they made it pretty far. Donte single-handedly scored 5 touchdowns that game on offense at different positions, offense and special teams that game. 5 touchdowns against Lakeshore as a senior at Riverdale. They lost the game, and obviously he was upset, but even in a loss, you saw that same confidence and swag on display, and he knows what he's capable of doing. He is electric with the ball in his hands, or he makes plays any way, shape, or form to impact the game. So that will always be a lasting memory in my mind, watching that up close and personal. Still tell that story, just kind of recap that game with a lot of people who ask about Donte. And the way he's carried himself at LSU and matured as a player on and off the field is super commendable. And he represents LSU well. He represents Riverdale High School well. He represents New Orleans and Louisiana well. And he's going to bring a lot of that great character to the Panthers next year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait. Yeah, and I do remember reading something now where in high school, he played so many positions. I do remember seeing something like he had over 1,000 yards, a total of 1,000 yards or something on his senior season, maybe. I think I read somewhere.
I'm sure he had way more than 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
He might have had close to 1,000 rushing, 1,000 receiving, and he passed the ball a little bit back then too.
Oh boy, they line him up all over there in high school now. But yeah, I'm like I said, man, I'm looking forward to it, and this is great. I can't thank you enough for jumping on the show and taking the time, because this is a guy I wanted to learn a little bit more about and kind of get like that inside perspective from somebody that actually watched him and saw his character on and off the field. Because a lot of people obviously know that he brings that kind of, you call it cocky, this swagger to this team and this defense. But a lot of people don't necessarily know what he brought to high school and college, and the fact that he brings that character aspect as well along with that is going to go a long way, I think, and people should know that. Absolutely. I'm glad I could inform them about it. Yep, definitely. Well, guys, y'all be sure to check out Sam's stuff on seccountry.com. You got any other plugs, your Twitter and stuff, Sam?
Yeah, they can give me a follow at Sam Speaks. There's plenty of Donte Jackson stories we found if you scroll through the timeline. If you go to SEC Country LSU on Twitter, we have a pin tweet of Donte after the Arkansas win last year, and he came up to me with the signed poster. They had been talking a lot of smack. There's a lot of Louisiana kids on that Arkansas team, and Donte reminded them who's number one, who's been carrying that streak. It's a great picture. Right on that at SEC Country LSU page if they go take a look. Awesome. Yeah, I actually saw a picture from the Auburn game where he took the whiteboard and wrote maybe next year. There you go. That was pretty awesome. But Sam, thanks again. And guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Be sure to like and follow the page here, and I'll be posting all this stuff in the podcast form here shortly and on YouTube and all that. So be sure to follow there and subscribe. And y'all keep pounding. I'll see you next week.